windy day today. We just can't seem to shake this damn wind. Only good thing about cooler day is I can move bees really easy, so I might come back here and pick up another couple of loads just to make use of the day. Just about done moving the bees out, so that's good. It's just we need some warmth now. These nests are growing. The bigger ones, the ones I identified as big colonies, they're sporting like 3-4 frames of brood, and they're going to hatch, you know, within the week and a half. So we need to get space onto these colonies. We need to allow them to grow and develop. But this cold weather, I'm looking at the forecast, and I'm not seeing anything that's exciting me too much. Like, you'll notice I do a lot of fussing with my nest, and I'm managing these hives in a single box, and in a way I guess you could say that I'm trying to micromanage their development. I'm trying to give them absolutely everything they need to be able to excel, and one of those things is just providing just the perfect hive environment. You know, they have their cluster, I can't do anything about that, but what I can do is I can provide them the ideal conditions within that box to allow them to grow and to develop. So I'm doing that. You can see these big nests growing out, and they're about to expand. I got to put space on them, and what you do is you put a box on top to give them space, right? I've talked a lot about this, and there's a lot of debate around it, but I believe that by simply adding space on top of a colony, you completely change the hive cluster dynamics in there. Instead of them maintaining this nice, neat, tight little cluster, all of a sudden they have all this house up on top. Their heat dynamics change. You know, all of a sudden they don't have a ceiling there, it's up here, and they have all this space above them, so they gotta cover up the top there to protect the colony down below. I just find adding space is an extremely stressful event for a beehive. That's one thing where guys managing doubles, there's no issue there, because the guys, like those nests, have already adapted to all that house that they have to look after. Except when you rotate them, right? When you put the bottom box on top. And putting a box on top of a single is exactly the same circumstances. You got to watch all these factors. When it's cold and the bees all of a sudden have to take care of a bigger house up above them, they fall into an instant stress, a state of stress. And we're trying to keep them away from influencing any stress onto them. So they all of a sudden they get influenced with the more house to keep. It's colder, all these hive dynamics are changing. That stress just opens them up for disease. And I've seen this a lot when I've made the mistake. You know, you put a box on top of a great big box of bees. They got so many bees in there, they can handle all the changing dynamics. But it's those colonies that you assess as big, but they're just borderline, so they're not as big. So you put the box on top, and they're, you know, just takes a little bit more for them to adapt to the change in those dynamics. They'll be slapped with a bit of stress, and that's when you see chalk brood appear. I'll have years right about this time where these colonies are growing, and you know, I make the decision to go on top, and it gets cold and rainy, and those colonies just get shocked, and then for the next 2 weeks they're kicking out chalk brood out of the front entrance. No joke. Like, you can see a direct effect of stress. You know, chalk brood's one of those symptoms. So it's those years where I'm finding that it's cold, the colonies are developing, they're growing, they're gonna hatch. I don't have the weather to be able to put the space on top because I don't want to shock that nest. I don't want to influence any type of stress onto them. You know, that's when I make the decision to put that second underneath. So I maintain the integrity of that cluster. I keep the lid right above where that cluster is. They're nice and neat and tight. But when that brood hatches, they have a space to go. They can go down. The bees will go down, and it won't, you know, crowd that hive too much, and it will keep them away from swarming for a little bit. But when the weather improves, we'll go and put that box back on top when it warms, because what we want to do is we want to take that queen, we want her to move up, we want her to stovepipe up into that second box to lay those frames of brood before she goes back down, or before we chase her back down, so we can take that second box off for a split. So you can kind of see what I'm doing here, right? It's very important to have that box on top for the colony to grow up and through, but they won't do that if it's too cold. They won't do that. They'll just get shocked into that bottom box, hold tighter, and they won't grow anyway, and they'll be influenced by disease and just fall backwards. So we gotta make for damn sure. I always find myself rambling on this subject because this is just like a strategy that I employ, and I put a lot of attention to it, and I don't think a lot of beekeepers do. And I truly believe that changing the hive dynamics is a big factor on colony development. We got to maintain their momentum. We got to move them forward. We put all this effort into trying to promote all the conditions needed to be able to keep them moving forward. Then we do stuff to them and then just shocks them and puts them backwards. And we have to focus on those points of management that influence states of stress, and that just helps them maintain continual development, and just helps them, fend off all of this disease, because we have no options to control disease. So the only thing we can do is just maintain a healthy and vibrant colony, keep them moving forward, and just let them exhibit their pure brilliance. Just give them all the conditions they need and just let them go. At any rate, putting some open feed out for these guys because these hives are hungry. Just getting the hives moved out. We stripped all the pails off because I can't move these hives with pails on. I'm putting this open feed out and they're accessing it. They're taking it down whenever you get the opportunity. But this weather, stays cool like this. These guys are getting late. I'm like, more and more colonies I'm digging into, I'm like, ooh, they need some feed. Drop a frame of honey in, but I don't have any frames of honey. I gotta start, gotta get some syrup into these, gotta bulk them up. We're not getting any nectar flows. We're getting good pollen flows from the trees, but we haven't had any really good solid nectar flows. So we got to provide them the sugars with the syrup. So if things don't smarten up next week, I'm gonna have to tell my crew to get the pails out, and we'll have to spend some money and spend some time and get some pails on these colonies, and just hope the weather, just gives us opportunity to give them some nice, consistent, solid warmth. Nighttime lows above 5 degrees at least. Daytime highs, we need temperatures up around 20s, and just allow these colonies to expand and grow. Just make our job a little bit easier. But until then, we fight and we scrap, and we bite and we chew, and you just, we've got to carry this momentum and just got to keep pushing forward.